Yeah, welcome to the weekly Farmwall Q&A. Today we'll be talking about feeding our fish. It's a topic as part of the fish care Q&A, which we'll repeat every month. And every month we'll go a bit deeper into a specific topic. So thank you for joining us. And yeah, so we're gonna go look a bit what we need to feed our fish in our little Farmwall ecosystem to make sure that they're always healthy and our water quality is great. So feeding our fish is a very important thing to get right, because if we don't get it right, it can cause lots of issues, not only for the water quality, but also for the fish, their health, and eventually for all the efforts that it will take us to restore that. So when we're looking at our tank, it's important to ask ourselves a couple of questions, and that's what is a healthy diet for our fish, and to know that we gotta know exactly what type of fish we've got in our tank, and if they are a herbivore, a carnivore, or an omnivore. So a herbivore would be predominantly eating plant and algae. Carnivore, a meat eater for fish, that would be like insects or little bugs or remainers of cadavers from other fish, and an omnivore pretty much eats both. So both mosquitoes or insects or algae and plants. So a couple of examples in the Farmwall Ecosystem tank is where we've got multiple fish varieties and species. So the algae eaters are the fish that sort of live on the bottom, like you got the bristle nose here on top. So they predominantly eat a plant-based diet. So and they'll pick up bits and pieces of the carnivore's feed, but it's not part of their key diet. Then any sort of barb, tetra, cichlids, so the majority of aquarium fish, they kind of live in the middle section of our fish tank, so not on the top, but not on the bottom either. They're often carnivorous fish that feed on in the wild on insects, but if in our tanks we gotta pick even a fresh or dry food that's protein based, and then often the fish that are on the top layer of the tank, the guppies and platies, they often eat mosquitoes and larvae in the wild, but they also nip on algae and plant leftovers. So they're omnivores. So when we know that, we can start to kind of put a diet together that keeps them healthy and happy. And so the different types of food that we can give our fish is either dry food. So, and what we want to do is provide our fish with a lot of variety. So variety, as in our diets as humans, is as important for fish as well. So the more variety in their diet, the better their health will be, the better their guts will be, and the better their internal organs will be as well. So selecting a bit of a variety of different foods can really increase your fish in their health. So dry foods we often use that brown powder, which is an aquaculture feed, which is very high in protein. So that's more of a carnivore's feed. But then there's different blends and tablets and wafers available as well. So the wafers are often made of algae and dried algae, dried spirulina. Even the flakes, you can get the green and yellow flakes that was provided in the tanks before. They're often spirulina based. So feeding those and observing your fish in the tank, that the right fish eat the right foods, is very important. So then you can, in the aquarium store, you can find frozen foods as well. We don't provide those on our website because they're logistically a bit tricky, but most pet stores will have a freezer with frozen fish food. So, and that's often like bloodworms, which you can see in the image here below. They come in little cubes. You just keep them in the freezer, and then you defrost it in the glass. If you only get like 6 or 7 fish, like half a cube or like even a third of a cube will do to feed your fish. So you can feed it to your fish over a period of 3 days. And then there's different brine shrimps, krill. What you got to be mindful about is that krill can often be quite large, and it's good for cichlids. But like if your fish are too small, then they might struggle to eat that. But bloodworms should always be a great way to add some frozen fresh fruits to your fish's diet. And then fresh foods, very important for our herbivores. So yes, we've got our wafers that we can put in the tank, but then we can also add in cucumbers, peas, zucchinis, and the roots of our tank often get nibbled on by those fish as well. So we got to acknowledge that those as food. And the algae on the window of our tank, etc., all adds to fresh foods and that variety in their diet. Cucumber and zucchini are often challenging to kind of keep on the bottom of the tank. So you can either use a fork or something like that to kind of press it down. Just make sure the fork is nice and clean and doesn't have any leftover dishwashing liquid on it, because that can damage the water quality of your tank. Or if you use a fork for that, only use it for the tank and never put it through the dishwasher or the dishes, and just rinse it with hot water. If you want to make it real fun, then you can grow your own sea monkeys. So online you can buy eggs, and they're called Artemia, Artemia, I think, yeah. So what you're basically doing is creating like a bottle. We can do another tutorial about that one day, but a bottle with basically sea salt and the eggs, and get an aerator in that bottle, so it's always bubbling. And after a couple of days, they'll start hatching, and they'll form these tiny little creatures. You can feed that to your fish, and specifically guppies, small fish, and fry will absolutely love feeding on those. So that's sort of like the options that you have pretty much to create variety in your fish's diet. Can take it a whole lot of step with the fresh foods for carnivores as well, but that's only beneficial if you get larger fish. Most important with fish, instead of what you're feeding, is how much you're feeding them, and that is really crucial in a tank, especially in an aquaponics system where you actually need your feed to actually create nutrients in the tank. So you often want to feed a little bit more, but then when you overfeed, your tank gets out of balance very quickly. And that goes much quicker than we anticipate. So when we're feeding, it's better to feed in tiny little bits, literally like the tiniest pinch, which the fish can finish in a couple of bites. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, and it has to be gone. So for that to happen, you can understand it needs to be a tiny bit. Fish are cold-blooded, so they don't need to eat like us to keep their body temperatures up. So they easily can survive on very little food, and they can keep their strength up on very little food. And pretty much it's as long as no food drops to the bottom, then it's a great thing. Sometimes when you've got like Coriander, or which is a carnivorous bottom feeder, they'll happily clean up the leftover food in the tank. And if you've got an algae eater, for example, that's when you can feed spirulina flakes, and it's not too bad if it drops to the bottom, because the algae eater will kind of munch on the spirulina. Then if you want to create more nutrients in the tank, it's better to do that tiny bit of feeding multiple times a day. So you're going to do that 2, 3, 4 times a day when you're able to feed more. But just be aware that whenever you start feeding more, you're also putting the tank at a higher risk for ammonia. So you want to increase your water changes at the same time. When you've noticed you've overfed and you've just thrown too much in and it's floating through the water and it's floating on the bottom, take out the vacuum and give it a quick little water change and try to recoup a lot of that food as you can. Can't always do the best you can with that, and sometimes there is going to be food floating around. Just stop feeding them for a few days and allow that food to be processed into ammonia and actually being processed into nitrates. It's very important for the plants that food actually goes through the fish, because the fish actually make sure that the nutrients coming from that food are actually available for the plants to take up. When that food is just floating in the tank and it's unprocessed, the plants can't really take advantage of it. So yeah, what are the signs of overfeeding? Fish, when they look hungry and they're always following you around, they look a bit like Labradors. That's trained behavior. So a fish that's less fed and just with tiny amounts on multiple occasions will decrease in that behavior and be much easier in front of the window. Yeah, food at the bottom of the tank, pellets that stay floating on the surface. If you realize your gravel is getting dirty very quickly, and when you're vacuuming, a lot of dirt is coming out of the gravel, that's a sign that you can decrease your feeding a little bit. And if you notice cloudy water or your pH dropping intensely, that's an immediate sign that something's wrong, and that's often caused by overfeeding. Even if your fish are getting fed or floating, or if you start to see behavior in your fish that's starting to change, that's often caused by overfeeding. So overfeeding causes the fish their internal organs to malfunction, especially because when you're overfeeding, there's often little spikes of ammonia that go unnoticed, but that start building up within the fish's internal organs and to affect their health. So yeah, whenever you notice you have overfed, water change, stop feeding even for 3 to 5 days. Like, your fish will be fine. You can increase the temperature of the water a little bit. That will increase the capacity of the fish's internal organs to function a little bit better and faster. And then wanting to mitigate and kind of reset your fish a little bit is the use of Epsom salts. So Epsom salts are magnesium sulfides. They're very good for our personal health as well, to have a bath in, and it's good for our muscles and good for our personal health. But they're also great for the fish's health. So just a little bowl, maybe of like half a liter of aquarium water. So take that water out of your tank, catch the fish and put it in the bowl. And in that bowl, you've dissolved like a tablespoonful of Epsom salts. So, and that magnesium will go through your fish's internal organs and sort of like help the fish recover from the ammonia damage that's been done, and actually reset and give them like a proper internal cleanse. Very important when you give a fish a salt bath, 5-10 minutes max, and then back in the tank. And it's also always like one of the best ways to help a fish recover from any sort of stress and ammonia exposure that they've had. So yeah, that's about it when it comes to feeding the fish. So very important to keep in mind, less is more all the time. Fish that seem hungry are not always that hungry, and yeah, it's like better to do it more often in tiny amounts than less often in larger amounts. Yeah, keeps the water quality, keep the water quality up. It helps to keep your fish internal organs in great working condition, and then eventually we will end up with strong, resilient fish that will be with us for many years to come. Yeah, how are we all going in lockdown? I think we're spending a lot of time with our fish now, aren't we?
I have a question.
Yeah.
As you're probably aware, my little tiger fish managed to kill off my little algae fish, so it's just them in the tank at the moment. And I've been giving them the spirulina. I don't know, now I'm looking at this thinking I shouldn't have bothered.
Say it again, sorry, you dropped the radar for a bit.
The flakes. I hadn't realized that they were maybe for the algae fish and not for the tiger barbs. So the tiger barbs don't eat the spirulina. Is that what you're saying?
They'll eat the spirulina. They're a bit of an they'll definitely eat it. They don't need it. It's okay. More that brown powdery food that we've provided, the 7-day-a-week one. That's what they'll need to keep their health up. That's got the protein in it.
And the little green tablets, they don't need those either?
No, that's purely for the algae eater. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's probably why my tank has been having funny balances. And then the other question is, how do I know if I've underfed them? Because like you said, they're greedy little things, and they've been following me around. Now I know I've probably been overfeeding them. But how do I know if I've underfed them?
Yeah, and I don't think you can underfeed a fish if you feed them tiny bits every day, or like occasionally. Like, it's very hard to underfeed a fish.
Okay.
Like they don't need a lot. They need the tiniest amounts of food, and that bit of variety. And you can easily skip a few days here and there. So if you if they get really skinny, it's more of a sign that their internal organs aren't working properly. So then, if they're getting skinny, it's more of a cause that there's actually something wrong with their health. But yeah, so it's a golden rule. Like, fish don't need food like we do, or like a cat or a dog. They just need like a tiny amount occasionally, and that keeps their body temperatures. That keeps them going. It's more getting a bit of variety, getting a bit of and tiny bits occasionally. So yeah, the only sign could be like, yeah, if fish are if you haven't fed them in months. We've got one tank at the cafe, the local cafe in Elphington, and like we've been believing that they've been feeding them, and Elliot realized a few days ago that they haven't been feeding those fish in like months, and the fish are totally fine. They nibble on little things. Like, a fish can go without food for an incredible amount of periods. And people often, when they go on holiday for 2 or 3 weeks, think they gotta put automatic fish feeders in, but those fish feeders often end up overfeeding the tank with so much excess food that the tanks go in tank shock, and they actually come home after their holiday finding all their fish floating in the tank. And well, if they would have just left it as it was and returned 2 weeks later, the fish would have been fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what's left now? 2 tiger barbs?
No, 6 of them. There's still 6 of them.
All 6 of them. Yeah.
Yeah. They've managed to kill off 4 of the algae eaters, so I just gave up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our tank's really yellow, and it never used to be. Is there sort of has a yellow tinge to it.
Yeah. And the hemp's not touching the water?
The hemp. No, I haven't used hemp all year. I sort of haven't done any microgreens since about January or February.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the greenery died, and then the algae eaters died. I think that could have been a problem. And then there was a lot of algae. So I spent the whole of today cleaning the fish tank.
Oh, yeah.
And I say it doesn't look any better than when I started.
Oh, that's a shame. And have you been using the vacuum?
Yeah, yes, the vacuum. And I was getting tons of crap out.
Yeah.
Maybe
okay.
I don't know. I can show you. Hang on. Yep.
Okay.
Water.
Can you see that?
Yeah. That looks relatively clear.
Is it? It just looks like it has a yellow tinge, or is it just me?
Yeah, slightly, but it looks really healthy. The water. You can probably increase the water level a little bit. The plants look really healthy. The water quality looks great. From
Oh, okay. So it's just me.
If you want to get it like even clearer than that, what you can do is change about 5 to 10% every day for about small amounts of water, but like very frequent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll get
Yeah,
that.
just like 5-10% every day for like a period of 1 to 2 weeks, and then you'll see that your water will become crystal clear. But
when I put the vacuum in, it goes and half the
Yeah.
tank water's gone.
Candy, are you using the hemp at all to grow things in there?
No, I haven't. I bought the the pot holder thing.
Yeah, the lid.
That started at the hemp.
Yeah, cool. I was just
Yeah.
wondering, because sometimes the hemp can discolor the water a little bit. But yeah, if you haven't been using it, then.
And we took out the bit of wood too. We thought the bit of wood was making it.
yeah,
funny.
yeah. Driftwood definitely discolors the water over time, especially when it gets a bit older and starts to disintegrate. It can bring a little hue to the water. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it looks great otherwise.
Sorry?
And your algae eater has died as well.
Oh, they all. I've had about 6 algae eaters, and I've got 2 new ones just last week, and they're still alive. That's a bonus. I don't know what it is with the algae eaters. They just don't like the environment.
Yeah, we've had one. Yeah, and some things they keep going, and other things they. Yeah. We don't have the answer for that. Why sometimes they take over.
In my tank, the tiger bars bullied them to death.
Yeah, just stress. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
So I just.
Matthew joined us as well. How many fish have you got in your tank, Matthew?
All of them. I think. I just finished work. I've had meetings until then, so it's a good time to. Sorry, joining a bit late. But yeah, no, I'm interested about the feeding regime, but I can't remember who came and just gave some brief things. But yeah, the algae eater ate all the algae that was there, and so it's been clear. And the little barbs have been maybe 6 or 7 of them, and they're just doing their thing. But yeah, the fish are alive, so I and have been alive for months now. So I guess it's going okay. But the sad things, if other people are unfortunately having fish die, so it's changing the water every 2 weeks more or less, and like a reasonable big change of that. And I know with that pot holder thing has been yeah, it's pretty cool because all the roots grow into the tank, and just get starting to have some vegetation really grow out of it. The sort of devil's ivy, etc. Got a couple of them big plants growing out from that. So it's going well. But yeah, I was keen to hear the just about the feeding regime. I've just been doing like little pinches of the almost dirt like one, and then half a tablet every week, etc. So whether there was much more than that, but yeah, whatever is happening, they seem to be the fish seem to be going well and happy. And the first couple of times of vacuuming, it came up with lots and lots of stuff. Less now. My although the inlet tube to the motor is clogged. Well, it's not clogged up, but it's all gone. It's all with algae, and it looks pretty feral in there. But I don't think there's much to do to take it out. Otherwise, rocks will all go through the motor, and the motor itself was making a bit of a funny sound. I thought it might have been a pebble, which I've had one in there before, and so I'd had to pull it apart and then pull the pebble out. But now there wasn't any pebble, at least when I pulled it apart, but it's just making a much more of a high pitched or a whirring sound as though something is there. But the water seems to be flowing through, so I think that must be fine, or unless there's anything else there, or something just too small to even notice.
Yeah, mine makes a screeching sound when I switch it off and like to clean the tank. And then once I sort of manage to get water through it, I have to use a long straw and a very quick slurp so I don't get it in my mouth. But it makes this really high-pitched screeching sound until the water comes through.
Yeah.
And kind of like, it's like it's churning the water through as well. I'm wondering what that is.
Yeah, it's just getting all the air out. It's that instead that it should be, if there's nothing stuck in there, which I don't think there would be, then it's just like in the moment that it starts sucking up, it's got to work extra hard because it can't kind of get ahead of itself.
No, it's been going for a few days, and then suddenly it sort of seems to be churning the air out. Like it seems to have a lot of air in the pipe.
I guess maybe like a little air bubble that's stuck in there. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes, yeah, what you could do is leave it on and just take it off of the tube and kind of put it in the water and just shake it a bit while it's on, and then that might get some of the air bubbles out.
Okay.
And then you can put it back in its place without getting that inlet back into the air, if that makes sense. So shaking the bubbles out and then priming it basically without having to suck on it.
Pretty gross.
Something you should try.
Yeah. And Matthew, with your with that tube being all gunky and stuff, that's happened to mine as well. I think it's pretty normal. You can clean it if you've got one of those straw cleaners. It's kind of like a pipe cleaner, or like a brush.
I can.
Tool, a bit of wire. People sell them to clean reusable straws. You can get one of those and just stick it in and give it a good scrub, and that usually deals with the problem pretty well.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. I clean the outlet one when I'm doing my water exchange, sort of pull it out and just pass some paper through a couple of times. That keeps that clear. But the other ones, I hadn't thought of how to clean that up. But yeah, some pipe cleaner or something similar would be an approach. But I thought as long as the water's going through, it seems to be okay. But yeah, it's careful not to get the stones coming.
Yeah. So if you do it to that uptake tube, leave it in place. Don't move it, because then the stones will get in.
Yeah, no. After having one stone in, I know what it's like to pull the motor apart and to fix that up, and it's not so fun.
Yeah. Like that little. It's a little pump, and it's got the advantage that it doesn't take much space in the tank, and it's visually, like the alternatives for in aquarium stores are always larger filter pumps and pumps that hang outside of the tank, etc. So there's lots of those existing, and yeah, the under gravel filter allows us to do it in the most natural way possible, without using any plastic foams or anything like that. And that little pump is basically like any bigger than that, it would be too powerful for the water and for the flow and for the fish health because of that. So yeah, they do occasionally give way. So we've always have a few laying around if you need a replacement. So then let us know. And regarding the fish, I think I mentioned in the post, we're working on a fish insurance. So available for Melbourne and Sydney, pretty much, where because we're starting to work with schools as well, and they pretty much with school holidays and longer periods need to return the fish because there's no one around at the schools. So it's something we want to offer to all of our customers, basically for about $10 a month, to have a fish insurance, which would basically include that we would always replace fish that are lost. If you're going on longer periods, if you're going on holiday for longer periods of time, or you actually want to break from it for a little while, you can return the fish, and or the fish will be picked up and replaced when you start up again. So, and then yeah, with the algae eaters, it's finding the yellow ones and the brown algae eaters, they're quite sensitive for ammonia because they don't have scales, and the bristle nose are probably the best option. And when the fish come from us in the future, rather than from aquarium stores, they'll be much stronger as well, because a lot of aquariums use lots of water conditioners and different ways to kind of keep lots of fish in small little tanks. And then when they come into aquariums like the ecosystem ones or any other ones where we don't use all those conditioners, and we can't use them in the system because from a food safety perspective, those fish often get small internal issues because of adapting to that clean water. So when those fish have actually been in tanks at Farmwall where they've already been conditioned to those water qualities, we're assuming that there'll be a much less of a
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep your eyes out for the insurance. We're probably planning to make that available after the lockdowns end, because at the moment it's pretty hard to live by that.
So in the new year then.
In the meantime, we can grow microgreens and look at our fish a few times a day.
Microgreens. I've got chickpeas on there at the moment.
Oh yeah. Fantastic.
I've got some sunflowers raising, and I'm going to be a bit heavier on the peroxide on them to make sure they don't get moldy again. I had an issue where they went moldy and started to rot, and I managed to peroxide that out of them, so that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, the chickpeas are the most challenging one on rotting.
Oh no, these were fine. These chickpeas were fine. These were sunflowers.
And sunflowers, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely need peroxide. Sunflowers and chickpeas are the two main ones. Yeah, that most challenging ones.
Snow peas. The snow peas are brilliant, and they just kept cropping. I think I had a third yield from them. They're just so easy.
Yeah.
I've off the little tiny ones, the little tiny seeds. I haven't grown those for months now because the other ones are just so easy and just so generous.
Yeah, you get a good yield, a good crop yield, good volume, and they're great to make dips as well. I often pinch a tray from Elliot at Farmwall that he's using to go to the larger Farmwalls, and then just harvest them all, put them in the blender. The the pea shoots, and then add some olive oil and some herbs, and it's the perfect dip.
Like a kind of pesto concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I've been trying the snow peas. They've been good. I'm chopping them up and putting them in soups or anything really, salads. It's been good.
Yeah, feel free to share it on the platform as well if you get a good photo of of any of those salads. Got to work on our cookbook at some stage.
I think that would be good. Yeah, like a little tip area. I've almost given up like the sprouting as well. I'm just on the microgreens.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I had some of those Woolworth seeds, so I've been growing spinach for about the same yield on spinach for about 4 or 5 months now. I've just started growing like silver beet as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's a good time now as well to germinate all your seedlings for summer. So often people start thinking about it in September or October, but like it's August, end of August, that you got to do all your seedlings for the summer. So any sunflowers, tomatoes, all that, and actually on top of your tank, because it's nice and warm consistently because of your heater. So on top of the tank, it's always like 24 degrees. So it's a perfect environment to germinate any greens for the garden. So even if you're using soil,
that's a good idea.
Yeah, and even if you're using soil, then just get a drip tray rather than a slotted tray, and put a drip tray on top of the tank, and you actually then have a warm area to actually germinate your seedlings. And because when you've got a consistent temperature in the soil, that's when you get really good seedling germination and really quick germination. Turn the light on for like a few hours a day, and your seedlings will be very strong very quickly to actually. It's like perfect greenhouse environment for them to mature in time to actually get into the garden.
It's a great idea. I got a whole lot of pumpkin seeds. I was about to sprout and thinking of doing it, and that's just I now know that's a weekend sorted.
Yeah. Yeah, and feel free to share some photos on the platform. I think whenever something like that comes up, I think people are loving to see that.
So as a feedback, my wife was very nervous when she saw the hydroponics tank, just thinking, how is this going to look in the house with the big box? It's not going to look so beautiful. The tank was okay, but once we got the spinach growing out, and we've been harvesting that, and we're back to, so I think, second or third growth of that. It's been won over, and now they want more planted.
Yeah.
And we had some great success. Like I tried to grow coriander in it, and that didn't work so well. But I had dill, and the dills worked very well.
Fantastic.
So I don't know why the coriander just didn't. These were just seedlings I put out from the garden, just washed them, that were sort of growing wild, and just washed them down and put them in. The coriander didn't really hit, but the dill's gone gangbusters, and it's been great for which is because it usually doesn't work so well in my garden too much. So yeah,
fantastic. Got no idea why the coriander wouldn't have worked. Do you, Pet?
No, not really. The first thing that comes to mind is I think coriander, correct me if I'm wrong, but from memory it has a nice long taproot, like a really thick long taproot. I think, I'm not really sure, but I think the plants that are like that are less likely to do well as opposed to vegetables and plants that have really fibrous root systems.
That'll be like parsley's got a big strong taproot, so that one might be I haven't tried that one yet, but yeah.
Usually if it's got a nice big taproot, it's used to being in a dry soil, and that taproot, part of it is to dig really deep for water, and also to store a lot of carbohydrates in that taproot. If it's really hungry, especially when it's time to reproduce and produce seeds, and it can draw on those energy reserves. Makes me think that, and then sorry, the flip side is plants with fibrous roots, really short, thin fibrous roots. They're used to being in much more moist soil. They don't have to work hard to get the moisture, so they just spend all their energy spreading outwards and getting nutrients from far away, and then also like anchoring themselves on a wider surface area. Typically, plants like that do better in hydroponics. So that's the only thing that comes to mind with coriander. But,
Yeah.
But really, that's just a guess. I'm not 100% sure why. If you took it from soil, it's possible that it didn't. You know, sometimes moving from soil to water and water to soil, the plants can't really do it very well. It's usually going from water to soil is a really tough transition because the plant's used to being in water, doesn't have to work hard to get the water, so its roots are really weak and they're just used to floating around getting whatever they want. And they produce a lot of smaller root hairs to access nutrients, but they don't have to like dig and anchor. So then you chuck them in soil and the plant's not strong enough to you know, to keep going. Usually the other way around, soil to water, it can be okay, but perhaps that was another thing. If it came from the garden or from a soil pot, maybe it struggled with the transition. But
yeah, I'll have to try again, I think, but the deal worked amazing. That was great just to have the herbs just right there in the kitchen, able to grab at. But yeah, the coriander, I might give that another go. But I really like the idea of germinating plants from on top of the tank, because you're right. You go past there and it just feels just that little bit of heat coming off and nice and warm. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, but the soil can never touch the water though. So always make sure you use the drip tray.
Yep.
And if you use a drip tray and you actually want to grow in soil, for example, you can fill up your soil. You can fill up your slotted tray with soil, sit it in your drip tray so that the actual water is protected.
Yeah.
And seed your coriander straight into the soil, and it will germinate well because of the heat, and you get that really good growth. And actually have like a bit of a herb garden that way. It's quite easy to do and maintain. Just make sure that the water is not touching the drip tray and that you leave air in between, because otherwise it will take all the oxygen out of the water.
Yep.
And then your fish will start to struggle, and it will obviously block a bit more light, so your tank might be a little bit darker for a while as well. Yeah,
very good.
What we've done in one of our tanks for a photo shoot was IKEA's got these LED lights, like just 12-volt LED lights, and you can pretty much just put them in behind your tank and on the side, and then you get some extra light coming in through the side of the tank when your grow lights are not on. It actually creates a neat little ambience in the tank. Could be something to try out over a bit of a lockdown tinkering exercise. Yeah. All good. I think we'll 5:47. We've gone over time a bit, so I think we can call this. We'll place the recording into the actual event as well. So all the recordings are available from now on as well again. And where do we paste them, Pat? In the actual event, or?
Yeah, so we upload them to YouTube and then we link them in the event, but then also as a separate post in the there's a topics page in Mighty Network in Ecosystem, and if you go to topics and then live Q&As, or sorry, live events, it's also listed there.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh no, thanks.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah. Good night. Good weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.